on, Kelan.
Bitch. I was going to try and talk over the top of you.
I was just going to say, Kelan, over to you.
Oh, well, I don't know what to say apart from we've got a lot to talk about. Well, I feel like we have a lot to talk about, but not really.
Wow, you've really sold the content of this podcast.
What we're going to talk about is, I'd say, very important, and something we could probably ramble on for a long period of time and forget about what we're actually talking about. So we should probably concentrate and actually try and get across some good messages.
We're going to try and do it concisely. So, as you have probably guessed from the title of this podcast, I'm not sure what we're going to call it yet, but it is Mental Health Awareness Week, which, funnily enough, we were going to talk about this subject anyway. And then as we were kind of preparing the show, I suddenly realised that it's Mental Health Awareness Week. So
that was lucky.
The stars have aligned. Before we dive deep and dark, I feel like I should say, firstly, neither of us are doctors. Therefore, whatever we say or whatever advice we give is not professional.
And could be entirely wrong.
Yeah, probably most likely.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know if this is the case, but if anyone is kind of easily triggered into like negative thoughts or anxious thoughts or things, then I don't know what we're going to talk about yet, but just go into this being wary if you're kind of that mind, because I don't want anyone getting hurt.
Nice.
Also, if you're going to listen to this just to kind of laugh and be like, oh, fucking man up, then
you're a dickhead, fuck off.
Yeah, in a way.
No, really, you should
have some empathy.
Yeah. Not everyone feels exactly the same. Some people cannot understand. That is true. Loads of people could not understand things like depression.
I could not understand. I literally couldn't understand depression until I had like what I would consider a bout of it. And I was like, I just feel sad for no reason.
I know. Yeah, well, I feel like when I was younger I did, but
it was so weird.
Like if someone was sad, I didn't. Not sad and depressed. Different. I'd say. When I was younger, yeah, sad would be sort of short term, like, oh, I don't know, I've just fucking broken my Xbox or something.
Yeah,
Whereas depression would be very long term, and I'd just think you wouldn't think anything of it as a kid, because I think as a kid you discover sad emotions a lot if you think about it.
Well, no, yeah, you have to. There is sadness in life. Like it's not a fucking easy ride. I don't know what the official term, like the official scale of things are. In my head, it's like a level of depression is like when there is not necessarily a root cause. As you said, sad is like somebody's died or something's broken or life hasn't worked out and it makes you sad. You might feel miserable for a period of time. I think that probably could lead on to
it. I think it can trigger it, but also a lot of the time it's due to you. Do you know what I mean? There's people who will have depression and you don't really notice it, and then something triggers it and you're like, oh, I feel really, really shit, and now you're like, you know what I mean? Like, because there's people who are depressed and they have no reason whatsoever why they're depressed, but they've got depression. Yeah. Whereas there can be people who have that to a minor scale, and then something happens, and then they're like, "Fuck."
Yeah. It's a really, really tricky one. I think the kind of important thing to take away from it is like everybody feels different, and there is no set perfect way to feel. But if you feel unhappy for essentially no reason, or it's, well, no, I don't know, because when I felt kind of what I would consider depressed, I was giving myself reasons. Yeah. But it was I was almost providing the reason. I felt sad anyway, and I was almost putting the reason.
Yeah, you put yourself down.
It wasn't.
Thing that happens.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't literally until I remember one night I was like lying in bed and I was just like talking to Sarah about it, and I've always tried to like. I mean, I will be as open with her as sort of possible, because I'm a huge believer in communication and talking and things, but I really try not to like drag her down when I'm feeling shit, and I definitely still do it sometimes. But it was one night and she was like, you are depressed. She was like, you have some a form of depression, like you, to some degree, you are depressed, like this is not normal that you should be feeling like this. And I'd always be like, no, I'm not depressed, I just feel sad because of this. But at the end of the day, it was like, I just felt fucking dark. But
I think one thing is like, because you say you feel dark, like you feel like really, really sad. Also, maybe just a feeling of like nothing and emptiness. Because that's such a common
100%.
For a very long period of time, I felt just like complete nothingness. It
Yeah,
was so,
yeah,
it was
yeah.
so weird. Like I'd be just, I mean, at that time I think I was gaming a lot. I was like staying indoors a lot, and there was nothing. I felt nothing, and it was really, really weird.
Yeah, and
like,
I think it's also very easy to just like not even analyze yourself to that degree, and as you said, to fall into these like habits that essentially are not like healthy, like being reclusive or doing like, there's nothing wrong with gaming, but if you're spending every day of your life indoors, like staying away from everyone and like not achieve, like having,
you're not helping yourself at all.
Yeah, it's like you've got to. It's hard to kind of define.
Yeah, I mean that was around the time when Nye passed away, and then that was when I was first going into college, and I was commuting every day and stuff.
There's lots of stress.
Just so much added up. So I wouldn't say it's like couldn't be. It might not have been depression. It could have just been loads of shit on top of me.
Yeah,
but I kind of got a taster of how it feels, and it does suck because there was so much going on. I think I just dropped everything, so I didn't go to college.
Shut yourself in,
and I was just in my bedroom. And although in the same way it does slightly help because I had family around me, but still better to just get yourself out there talking to people.
Family's a really weird one because your family are amazing to talk to in the right scenario.
You were saying about like your mum can be. I know your mum could be programmed to just be like, "Oh, it's okay."
They're yes men.
Just stay. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like just I can be like, "Mum, I'm really worried about this. I'm stressed," and she's like, "No, it's fine. You'll sort this out. Like I believe in you and things." And it's like, well, what
just
if
stay at home and
then and then you go and see a therapist or something, and they're like, sort of, no, that's not right, or like this isn't like blah 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 blah. Like, and you get people who get trapped in these relationships with their family, who, like, in controlling ways almost. But let's rewind a little bit. In my head, there are two. Well, okay. So, why did I want to do this podcast? Even this topic, even before it was Mental Health Week, is that I personally suffer primarily from anxiety a lot, and have had bouts of depression and kind of weird hypochondria stuff, which I guess is kind of anxiety related. My big thing is I'm as I said, huge believer in communication and talking about stuff. Everyone, I feel like so many people know someone who has self-harmed or commit suicide or something because and sometimes it's a fucking surprise. You just find out, John killed himself. Why? Oh, he was depressed. Why didn't he say anything? Because people don't talk, and there is this like world of like, oh, man up, deal with it. And okay, so here's the thing. The demographic of parkour is like early, mid, late teens into kind of, I guess, early 30s or something, which is literally the exact same fucking demographic as the highest suicide rates, which are it's young men basically, because we go through this period of like needing to become responsible, dealing with the pressures of life, and being told to fucking man up, like, oh, you're not allowed to cry and things. And you get these people who are like, oh, man up, and they don't. I feel like they're like so scared that we're going to suddenly turn around and start having like crying circles and like it's all very soft, and
I don't like the image.
But it's not like that. I just want, if somebody is feeling like they're going to fucking freak out because or they're feeling miserable because essentially
they've held it all in as well.
And the way I see it is like, this is where I'm not a doctor, but I feel like from what I understand, like these things can be caused by kind of chemical imbalances that can happen in your body that. It's not like you're in control of that shit. That shit's happening. You have your conscious mind, and then you have your subconscious mind, and then you have your kind of body. You can just get fucking depressed, and nothing can stop that shit happening in the initial thing, and it's how you then deal with that. And I don't know. I don't want to be at a parkour jam, and somebody's having an anxiety attack, and they feel like they're on the verge of it, because I've fucking been there many times, and you feel like you can't go like, guys, I feel fucking weird right now. Like, help me, like, kind of thing, like, or like, can I just talk to you about this, or like, guys, I feel really sad. I'm not saying everyone needs to get around in a circle and sing Campfire songs and cry and hug, like, it's never going to go that way.
No.
But we should have this, like, comfortable thing where, like, I'm not going to judge you, Kelan, if you, like, fucking come to me and you're like, oh, I feel weird. Because it's like, hell, I feel fucking weird as well. Like,
I think people just need to be comfortable as friends.
Further
than what they think friends mean. If that, like, you know, like there's a lot of people who are really, really good friends, but will never talk about this. Yeah. Or they will, but they won't talk about their personal issues.
Well, there are certain people, I think, that because I've got friends who I would sort of, I mean, I try and be open with everyone, and some people are just not so receptive, like whether or not they're struggling themselves or they can't. Because before I felt depressed, I literally didn't understand how you could just feel sad. And now I do. So now I feel like I'm kind of, if somebody comes to me and they're like, I feel sad, I'm like, cool, I know kind of how you're dealing, so I feel like I can talk to you about it. So some people just aren't maybe prepared to deal with that conversation. And if they're not, I don't think you should force it. But I think by being open and testing the waters with people, because it's not like I'm saying go to people and break down in tears to everyone. Like, it's like you want to test the waters. You will find in your friend circle, your family circle, people who you can have these conversations with. And failing that, and I think you're not even failing that, you should do this anyway, is if it's getting bad, then professional help is the fucking number one. Like, I've been seeing a therapist for a number of months now, and it's been a few weeks since I've seen her because she was on holiday and then life got busy. But it's been incredibly effective. Even just knowing that I'm doing something to like help my brain has been a good feeling.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, let's rewind a bit because it's very easy to kind of.
Yeah, I was looking down and I was like, oh,
we got a list.
Got a list here.
Well, so for me, anxiety and depression. You've had a bit of both, right? Yeah.
Especially anxiety. I've had some really... Well, I don't even know if you'd call it anxiety.
You've had some really strange things that I can't even comprehend.
No, I've had to like look it up on forums and stuff because I got quite scared and I didn't know what was going on.
Because you've had stuff where you like wake up in the middle of the night and you're standing in your room and things like.
Well,
right?
I don't know whether it's just if it was linked to... Like I first had it when I have glandular fever. I don't know if anyone's... Well, whoever's had that, you'd probably know exactly what it's like. But because the fluctuation of temperatures, it makes you like hallucinate and things. But since having glandular fever, I've had it without being ill. Yeah. And I thought it was anxiety attacks. But then whenever I look up what I'm having, what like I'm experiencing, everyone on the forums are kind of like, no, it's different to anxiety. Like I know it's like completely different.
Oh, but other people experience the same thing.
But whenever I explain it to someone like a doctor or my mum, they're just like, oh yeah, it's anxiety.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what that was. It's more just you being completely confused and really, really like panicky. Yeah. Which I guess is like anxiety.
Yeah, I mean, if you told me that, I'd probably be like, sounds like anxiety.
Yeah, but it's more like I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm about to like die. But why am I about to die? I don't feel like I'm kind of awake, and I'm like looking at my hands and I'm like, oh, it's making me feel sick, and I like have to go and speak to someone because otherwise I feel like I'm not actually existing on Earth, but I am on Earth. Because the thing that people say on the internet is
disassociation or whatever. Like
people say that like I don't feel like I'm actually like standing up on Earth right now. I feel like I'm sort of almost floating, almost. It's like sleep paralysis, but it was more, I guess, mixed sleep paralysis and anxiety. But not the paralysed bit. But yeah, that's triggered a lot of I think normal anxiety. Yeah. From that.
Well, the time that I remember you. Wait, but you've also had kind of like depressive bouts as well.
Yeah, that like I was saying, that was, I think, when it was... Actually, to be honest, like during most of my school life, I've never ever liked school, and it's always really like, it's made me struggle with everything. When it came to exams, I was like, I was never the fast one, so like the amount of pressure being on me kind of made me want to give up all the time.
What I've noticed with you, even when it's like... just from an outside perspective, is you seem to, whenever pressure amounts, if let's say you're doing like 3 things you like and then 2 things you don't like, and then maybe one of the things you like is putting pressure on you and 2 of the things you don't like are putting pressure on, you kind of shut down everything. Yeah. Like you kind of, or you try almost, because you did it fairly recently where you were like, and to be fair, like it opened up a communication between you and me where I was like, like we were talking about sort of, Keelan's helping out a lot with Motus, and it was like, cool, well, we'll set some hours, because you suddenly were like, I can't do anything, I can't work, I can't train, I can't, and you like...
Yeah, it's because I
got this series of voice messages, and it's, from an outside perspective, you're making total sense, but also like you're very flustered, almost.
Yeah, well, when I actually think about it now, it really doesn't sound much of a big deal, but when that happens, I think... Even though I've only got like a few commitments, they turn into like 6 because one goes over the other and that one goes over that one.
And it's kind of overwhelming,
I can't like focus. I'm more sitting in my room, more thinking about like, am I doing enough and when should I do enough?
Yeah.
rather than getting on with it. So it just really like
Yeah. And I think this is the thing is like I don't know clinically whether that would be classed as anxiety or depression. Like some people might listen to this and they're like, fuck off. That's
that's
but
nothing,
I think no one feels the same. And if you are stressed out by something, like everyone will experience different shit in their life that basically becomes too much for them. Some people can handle more than others. Others like it's all very, very different. And I think if you are not happy, then you need to change something because like self-preservation is the fucking is the thing at the end of this.
Yeah. But like, I know depression well though because my brother is like he has got depression because he's got he hasn't got autism but he kind of has. No, he has got autism but it's not. You wouldn't be able to notice it. It's not Asperger's, like it's not the big thing. But because of all of that, like the amount of stuff I deal with every day anyway, like I just know. Do you know what I mean? Like think of someone you're living with, you know the signs of it. Also like affects me a bit because I'm worrying about whether my brother's happy.
Yeah. Like,
and then I'm like, oh shit, like
it rubs off, doesn't it? Yeah.
But I know you've had because of both of us struggling, the amount of stuff you've told me as well.
Well, Keelan's now become one of my go-to people of like, if I am feeling a bit pranged out, I can kind of speak to him just because I know that he can't do anything to help me.
No.
But I know that I can at least voice my thoughts and therefore like I don't know. And I don't even know if that's that healthy for me just to be like, hey, Keelan, I feel fucking weird right now. Like, or whether or not internally I should just be like, deal with it kind of thing.
But because we're working together a lot, I think it's really important because if we were working together as much as Spitting in the Wind and all this, and either one of us was having problems and the other person didn't know this whole time. Yeah. When it finally gets to the point of like crumbling, you'd be like, what the fuck?
It's like, it's like too late by that point.
It's better just like working as a team and like the same thing with, like I was saying with friends, like you should just, if you're always seeing someone, you should make it apparent that.
Yeah, totally.
How you're feeling.
I mean, to throw it back, so the first stuff I ever remember kind of when I like heard terms of anything was like when I was like 15 and I was like doing exams at school and I was just getting like really I don't know how severe, but like hypochondria. So I was convincing myself that I had like a brain tumor or something like this, like, oh, my head feels funny, or like my eyes are going funny and things like this. And I would go to the doctor and I'd be like it would freak me out. Like my brain would just, I wouldn't be able to, they'd be like, oh, we'll do a blood test and you'll find out in a week. And that whole week,
the scariest shit.
That whole week, I'm just like sick. I'm dead. Like, and I had that recently. I had a blood test recently, and still I was worried. And I remember sort of a doctor saying, "Oh, you're obviously a bit of a hypochondriac." I was like, "Oh, wicked, cool." And then I remember my first fucking. I only remember this the other day. My first like anxiety thing. Well, just to go back. Never depressed ever from what I remember being a kid, like always chirpy, happy, blah blah blah. And then I had my best mate at school who was like head boy and he was like killing it, like just that guy just suddenly was like not in school that much and just barely around. And I remember speaking to his girlfriend who went to a different school and she was like, yeah, he's just really depressed, like we missed a train the other day and he broke down in tears, like even though there's another one coming in 5 minutes and like everything just makes him sad. And I was like, well, why? Like, can't he just be happy? Like he's killing it. He's got all this going on for him and things. It's like, why can't you just be like, can't you just turn it on? Can't you just be happy? Yeah. And I never could comprehend that, even for years, until I don't know when it was, when I first kind of fell into this little pit. And I've never been like depressed long term, but I have these little bouts where I fall. Yeah. I've always described it in different ways, but it's like you fall into a bit of a hole and suddenly the world is just glum and dark. Some people fucking live in that thing for years. And the way I see it is like the further down that hole you go, the closer you get to kind of essentially suicide. And it's a harsh reality that people end up. I don't know really how like. Wait, so where are we going? And yeah, so I'll get into this in a little bit, but. And then anxiety, I remember being at the studio years ago when we had the Visive studio. And just...
You had a Visive studio?
In Jamie's house, we had like, in his back garden, there was like this studio building. It was a summer house that we converted into a studio.
Nice.
And I don't know if I drunk loads of like... I was probably drinking energy drinks back then and shit. And he used to always have like, fucking caffeine, watch out people. Like, caffeine will set you pranging. And I love coffee, but I have to be very, very careful.
I was pranging about my going to the toilet before the podcast because of the coffee. But anyway, carry on.
Yeah, I remember sitting in the studio and just like suddenly it's like this sense of like dread and feeling like I was going to die, and sitting outside and like calling my dad and being like, I don't know why I feel like this. And I was like, oh, I have just like, I remember I had a big like pint of Coke beforehand, as in the drink.
There you go.
And obviously that's got sugar and caffeine and things, and I probably hadn't eaten much. And it kind of, this is what I've learned through having anxiety for however many years, is like you have to be really, really careful with your body and your blood sugar and how much caffeine you have and things, because I mean, if I skip a couple of meals and then pounded some coffee, I'm flying and freaking out.
But you have coffee quite a lot, because I was thinking that does not help.
It doesn't help. The problem, and I keep saying, I'm like, oh, I should give up coffee, and then like Sarah bought me like a really nice coffee machine, and I was like, I can't just give it up.
So I like my cup of tea, but coffee, I realise how extreme it is now and then. I know it's only coffee, but like it gets me buzzing for a bit. I'm like, oh.
I wake up, have a coffee, take the dog for a walk. Gets me going. Although, yeah, it gets your bowels going as well.
Yes, it does.
Telling Kelan earlier, I had to evacuate a dog walk halfway round and rush home, dragging Darwin behind me because I was about to shit myself. But
I swear you've had multiple things where you feel like you're going to shit yourself.
Well, I mean, this one was quite legitimate. But I mean, this is okay. So, what are we doing? How dark? I've had weird anxiety stuff in the past where like it's normally triggered once by just to go back. I realized I never covered this statement that I wanted to make, but a huge reason why I wanted to do this podcast with you, especially because I want anyone listening to this who maybe does suffer from this kind of thing and has never opened this conversation up with anyone, to realize that like I fucking experience this shit every day. Like it's very, very real. It's everywhere. There are more people out there than you think who are experiencing it, so don't feel like you are alone.
Yeah.
I know exactly that just me saying that means absolute fuck all, because everyone's situation is their own.
Yeah. Could be on the other side of the world as well. It's hard like that,
but there are so many people out there struggling. I mean, what are we going to do? My toilet anxiety? Let's do my toilet anxiety.
I just wanted to
that sounds mental. That one,
the plain one.
Yeah, but I never had a worry about shitting myself until that moment.
Yeah.
Until that thing. I've always had a bit of a weak bladder, or I'm just a keen.
Oh, it was piss yourself.
No. It was shit yourself. Yeah. So this was okay. So flying out to For the Love of Movement. Here's your comedy for anyone wanting to listen to this and not feel sympathetic for me. Flying out to For the Love of Movement on Boxing Day. It's a day after Christmas.
My birthday.
This is heavy eating the day before, like seriously heavy eating. Got a morning flight, nice and early, cheap flights, and me confidently, because I've never had a worry about shitting myself on a plane before, probably had 2 coffees that morning. This is like, I don't know, 5-6 a.m. Get on the plane, and I'm on the window seat, which used to never have a problem with, trapped in by a couple, boy and a girl, a man and a woman, I guess, my age, like roughly, who were all kind of like nice and sweet and lovey-dovey, probably going out to Amsterdam for a little holiday or whatever. And I mean, I fly an EasyJet, so it's like slow runway, like you're pushed to the back of the queue.
It takes a long time. Yeah.
And like get on the plane and my stomach's a bit like, and I'm like, oh, Christmas dinner's moving, like here we go. And I'm like, cool, we'll be up in the air in 5-10 minutes kind of thing, like I can do this. And we sat on that tarmac in a queue and in delays for almost an hour, and I was fucking not allowed to get up, and I kept asking that, and I was like texting Sarah and things, and my stomach, honestly the worst. And I think this was like fairly new to being vegetarian as well, so you got like high fiber, like Jesus Christ. And I was literally sweating, and this couple next to me probably thought I was some like meth head, like sweating and twitching like like this. And it was absolutely awful. I was 100% convinced I was going to shit myself on like next, and it wasn't going to be like some little like, oh, I let a little bit out. Like it was going to be
a big shit, and you were going to have to sit in it the whole time, and people, everyone around you.
Every time I kept asking, they were like, no, the pilot says we're almost taking off, because we're in this queue to go to the thing.
Yeah.
And in the end, I basically stood up, and I was like, I have to go to the toilet. She was like, be quick, like all pissed. So I ran. I took a piss because I didn't know I was time to have a shit, and that that kind of relieved some of the pressure.
Yeah.
Then I went and had to sit back down next to this couple and was like still just sweating it out. Got in the air, and then fine. But ever since that thing, I've got onto planes, and it started off small. Like the next flight I got onto was a few days later, and I was like, oh, gotta be careful, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that then slowly built into this like weird anxiety
habit of like planes.
And I think a lot. I don't know if this is the case for a lot of people, but like for me, I can build like there's almost like a familiarity. Because I don't know if this is the case with you, but for me it's like if I have some form of thing that makes me anxious or some form of like anxiety panic thing, it's almost like once I've experienced that, I'm familiar with how that feels, and it's then easier to fall back into that place.
Yeah, definitely.
So I can like, I don't know, experience feeling a bit dizzy or something, and rather than being like, oh, that was weird, my ears popped, or I don't know, like,
or you just relate it to what exactly how it felt last time.
Exactly, and then
even if it's just slightly similar,
and then you
like
fall into that. So then I fucking developed this thing where now I'm like on a plane, I have to have an aisle seat, and I'm like, you will see me like, I remember going out to, I was in America last year with Charles, who was the French guy competing in speed, and we were flying up to Vancouver. Charles. And I went to the toilet so many times before getting on that flight, to the point where like every time,
just to make sure,
because I was like emptying my bladder, like making sure I did not need anything, and it feels, and I'm fucking 20, I'm 29 now, I was 28, and I'm like, what am I doing?
You're not an old man, you don't need to.
No, but it's not like, oh, I'm not an old man. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why is my head in this space? And that's something, I haven't flown in ages just because of like schedules, like I just haven't needed to fly. So I don't think I'm necessarily over that. But this is the kind of thing where like anxiety is just fucking weird. And I know, I sort of, I've heard stories about people who have such, to me, bizarre worries about different things. So everyone has
their bizarre worries.
Everyone is very, very different. And there's some people who have nothing at all. And I'm like, how the fuck did you get that? I got shit myself on an aeroplane. Like, how did I get that?
I can imagine Robbie's one of those people.
Yeah.
Imagine it's so, well, never know. Everyone can hide something.
Yeah, but I mean, I won't say my theory on that one. But
I think, because you can get the same thing with like planes taking off and stuff. Like I know that you've experienced. Like, I mean, I do not as, I wouldn't say as bad as you. Maybe I just keep it in or whatever. I'm not sure. But every time I do get on a plane, I am texting my parents like a bit more lovey than usual, because I always take into account, I'm like, this could be the last time.
This could be it. This could be,
because it's out of your control, and I don't like being. I don't like things when it's out of my control.
Yeah, that's a huge thing with anxiety. Is it's the control, which you have to basically accept that sometimes in life you can't have full control. Me with planes is funny because I don't care about taking off and landing. I just care about turbulence.
It's that, but it's more like, I'm going to do it while I have signals. So it's like I do it there, and then I'm like, in the air. Yeah, taking off's fine. Landing's the best thing. Even when we're coming like down and we haven't landed yet.
You're heading for that safe spot.
I'm close to the floor. I know, okay, if something fucks up now, I probably
That's what I've always thought. People are like, oh, I hate landing. I'm like, you are aiming at the safest place for that plane to land. And there's all the fucking medical... You are chilling. Like, I mean, you're not chilling, but...
Not chilling, but it's way better.
Yeah, but where was I going? For me... massive amounts of my anxiety come from essentially feeling like I'm going to die. And so I was reading this the other day, actually, kind of in preparation for this, but also because I've been going to the gym last week or so, being a strong boy.
Beefy boy.
And I've lifted sort of on and off in the past, and I know that when you're lifting these sort of massive, I mean, I'm deadlifting 4 tons at this one. No, when you're like doing things like deadlifts, you're putting your body under a lot of strain, and you get a little bit lightheaded, you get a little bit dizzy or whatever, because your blood pressure is kind of pumping up and then pumping down and things. I was deadlifting the other day with Johnston, and I had the normal kind of lighthead dizziness. But so what this does, when your body experiences essentially anxiety, it releases all of the chemicals and hormones, drugs, whatever, into your body that you would release in a life or death situation, i.e. fight or flight.
Yeah.
So and this is where a lot of people's anxiety sort of flares, because your body releases all of this shit. So you get shit like your pupils dilate so that you can spot a threat.
Really?
Yeah. So your body will naturally do all this shit. So your pupils dilate so that you can spot a threat more easily. Yeah. Your blood goes to your major organs and things away from your extremities, so that if you get cut or something, or like you get your arm torn off by a jaguar, you won't bleed out. Your body automatically does all of this shit, and you basically feel fucking terror. Now, I really don't know whether or not I should be like describing this kind of thing, because I don't know if this shit triggers people. Like, I don't know. Yeah, this is why I'm not a doctor.
I don't know. Things trigger. Everyone gets triggered by different things. I think.
Yeah, so I've had it where I've been in such And I mean, literally the other day, I was talking to my mate at the gym who works there, and while having a conversation with him, and I always do this, I like hold my face and things, so you'll always see me, I'm like, when I'm freaking out, I get all numb, and in my head, I'm literally like, every inch of my body is like, get the fuck out of the gym. Not because there's any threat in the gym, it's like every inch of my body essentially wants to sprint. Not that sprinting will help me, but it's like,
I've always found if in that situation, I don't know, same as you, if like get out the gym. When I'm out in an open space, I feel so much better. Because depends. If there's loads of people, no. But if it's like out of the gym, you go around the side or something, and it's just like
it's what's that song? And Shikari song.
What from the
newest
latest album?
Forest Therapy or something, isn't it? What is it? Shirin-yuku.
Yeah.
It's Japanese for like.
It sounds foresty, doesn't it?
It is. It's Japanese for Shirin-yuku.
One of my favourite ones from that new album for sure.
Yeah, Japanese for something like forest therapy or something, because it's just proven like it just chills you out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you experience terror essentially. Like your body is like, I have to get away from this situation, but there's no situation to get away from. And this is this thing where we spent however many thousands of years as animals that kind of had to get away from prey situation. So we've got all this stuff built into us, but now we work in offices and things, and these elements of our body are just not being like...
They're not being used.
Yeah.
And maybe you've got a build up of that more than someone else.
And also like, this is why exercise and good diet are so good, because you can keep all these things balanced. But when you imbalance these things, you can sort of... Yeah,
it gets let out at the wrong time, pretty much.
Yeah. And I am so far from being like cured from this. Not that there is like some magic cure, but
I think there's just things. It's
coping mechanisms. And I've been doing visualization and meditation and things with my therapist and stuff, and breathing techniques and calming methods and things. But it's like practice. And also the thing that I always think is like, well, why the fuck am I suddenly like this now? Like, why? How did I go for like 18, 19 years of my life and never feel like this, and then suddenly I've got it? But I don't think it's suddenly. It's like, I think you don't suddenly get fat. I think you neglect your body, and you neglect certain areas of like your brain and blah, blah, blah.
And maybe as a kid you are I do think mentally you are way healthier.
Yeah, probably.
Because you will have less worries if you're a kid.
Yeah.
And the things you worry about are kind of short-term worries.
Yeah, I think there's obviously situational things for other people, but it's, I mean, and that's why you do get these kids with like young kids who go through horrible scenarios and they have like horrible depression.
Maybe you could have got an anxiety attack when you were younger, but because there is such a limit of things to trigger it, do you know what I mean? There's not really much that can trigger anything.
Yeah.
But now that you're this age, because there's so much going on, triggering is way easier.
I mean, regarding the whole anxiety thing, I'm terrified. So it's Monday right now. We're shooting Soul Destroyer as of kind of a week's time, and I've got 10 days of filming, organising people. I mean, lots and lots of stress that isn't to do with like my body.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, I can't let this affect me during that time. And I 100% know it will. And it's just a case of I've got to... It's the hardest thing is every time you feel like you're literally about to die and your whole body is like, I'm going to die. And when I'm sane and normal and not... Okay, sorry, I don't mean sane. When I'm like level-headed like now, I sort of... The concept of death is somewhat terrifying, but I have accepted it. Or I'd like to think I have.
But when you're in that
scenario, it's like, fuck, like, and all this. And I go through these things. I'm like, what if I? It's always like, what if I pass out and die? And I'm like, well, if I pass out or die, I don't have a choice in that. It just happens. Like, I have to accept that I could right now have a brain aneurysm, fall over and die. Could literally happen like that.
That's really. Is it because you're explaining it like that? It's making me feel like the stuff that I had is very similar, but it's not, because it is every time I had that weird attack was I am going to die, but I didn't have any thought like I'm going to die because of this. I just knew I was going to die.
Yeah. Which is like a terror.
Yeah. But the triggering thing was a bit different and everything. But maybe someone else have something completely different to us.
Yeah, for sure. And
it's anxiety.
And the hardest thing is like you come to the other side of it, like sometimes 20 minutes later I can be so chilled, and you look back and you're like, why the fuck was I like that?
Yeah.
But now, because I know that I can fall into that headspace, I'm now like anxious about getting anxious.
Yeah.
And I'm like, shit, I don't want to be like that next week.
And then you're anxious.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's such a fucking whirlwind. But I mean, long story short, we all suffer from this. And yeah, I mean, I don't feel like I've ever fallen into one of these depressive bouts because of my anxieties. Mm-hmm. Fucking hell, I just remembered like roof culture. That was where I suffered a lot. I was like with the Storo guys who were so chill. We were on roofs, and I'm like already high stress. People are getting arrested left, right, and centre and things. And that was a really hard one because there wasn't many people there that I really felt like. I mean, I know the Storo guys really well, but I would say to them, guys, I feel anxious. But when you just say it in a statement like that,
I don't think any of them would get it quite to the. Well,
I know some of them have kind of had bouts of things. Not to sort of name names or anything. I know some of them have suffered from stuff. It's hard when it's situational like that, and it's like, come on this roof, and I'm like, guys, I feel anxious. It sounds like, oh, I'm scared.
Yeah.
Like I'm scared to go on the roof, and like, yes, I was, because I don't particularly want to get arrested and stuff. But it's not that like.
It's not generic.
It's not being scared to do a jump. Like, oh, I'm scared because of this. It's I feel like I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And that's a very different feeling. But where was I going? Yeah, I don't think I've ever been sort of kicked into a depressive bout because of anxiety. That being said, I have definitely had periods where like I've had such bad anxiety in a short space of time over a few days that I'm just like...
You feel mentally a bit...
Oh, it drains the shit out of you. Yeah, it drains you. And also you just get a bit like down because you're like, why me? Like, why am I in this place? Like when some people are just so confident and thriving. And this is the fucking other issue, is that people don't talk about this. So on social media, you don't see... this is hard.
I mean, you're saying on social media, but what is your opinion on...
Well, I mean, yeah, because this is what...
On splurging it.
Well, so I mean... I love him, and I don't mean this in any derogatory way, but I think somebody that a lot of the parkour community are aware of, and I wouldn't name names unless it was so public, because they're obviously making it public. But like Jared Nahulu, Colorado-based, absolute monster, clearly from conversations with him and just from what you see on social media, suffers hugely.
Yeah.
I feel like there is very little good in just blasting it on social media. I think it's absolutely fine if you're like, hey guys, I need, like on Instagram, it's like middle of the night or something, you're like, guys, I need someone to talk to essentially spark conversation. That being said, privately, probably better to initiate these things first. Yeah. My biggest concern with going on social media and basically saying stuff like, it's over, I'm going to end it all, is so I used to work with a guy when I worked at Apple who did literally this. On Facebook, every week or two, he would essentially make suicidal threats. I'm going to end it all, things like this. And at the start of it all, people would drive to his house, people would go and like call the ambulance, whatever, and he was constantly kind of like either considering it or just saying it kind of
just like he felt shit,
shouting at the world kind of thing. And then one day he killed himself. But the feeling I got, I mean, I didn't know this guy well, the feeling I got from that whole scenario was like, if you just shout at the world and kind of say that so many times, you become kind of the boy who cried wolf. Yeah. You just, because it's like, after a while, it's like, oh, well, that's just him. He just shouts that shit out. Yeah. Like, he's just like that.
He's just like that, but it never happens. Because
yeah. And obviously they are fucking suffering.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard though, because it's either... I prefer it that, because we were saying about Jared, I prefer it that Jared has at least posted stuff like this on his story than no one at all knowing what he's going through. Because it's still the same thing, and obviously it's just hard because through social media, I mean, this is why we send voice messages, because through social media, if it's not with a voice and it's just with words, it can be, what's the word I'm looking for, interpreted completely different.
Yeah.
And you don't get... Yeah, you just can't understand it fully as a human because it is just...
It's just words, words. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, it's better to make noise than none. Yeah. I just think you have to be like...
But if you're going to make noise, you know, and you have done it on social media, maybe the time is now that you should be like... Well, it's scary. You can't just be like, okay, I'm going to start to, like, talking to people.
If you're so prepared to, like, basically publicly put it on blast that you're, like, mentally kind of unstable or upset or whatever... You should also be in the mindset that, like, like, if you're taking that responsibility to say, this is how I feel, then you should take that responsibility to say, this is how I feel, to somebody close to you or a professional.
Yeah.
Like, it is somewhat, I can see there's a stigma around, like, I think less so in America. People in America seem to be quite open about, like, having a therapist. Mm-hmm. In England, there's a huge stigma about, like, oh, I go and see a therapist.
Yeah.
But they say, I mean, this is not my quote, but that you have your kind of, I don't know, twice a year checkup with a doctor, like for your body, blood tests, whatever. Why do you not have that for your fucking brain?
Yeah.
Like,
that'd be really good, actually.
Why do we not live in a society where people are just checking up and we're just staying on top of things? It's like, how are you feeling? Like, how is your head? Like, this shit has gone on. You lost your job. This has happened. You finished school. You don't know what you're doing in your life. Mm-hmm. They're like, sort of, Kelan, you finished school. You have no idea what you're doing. You're trying to be a professional athlete. You haven't got very much money. Let's do a blood test. Oh, your blood's fine. You're fine. It's like, fuck off. No, I'm not. Like,
yeah. No, it would be handy, especially if that came round and you didn't have to worry about getting a therapist or something. Because I'm sure that's also something people worry about. They're like, oh, am I bad enough to see a therapist?
Yeah.
Not using the word bad, but like...
No, but it's the way you think about yourself.
I've thought about it, when I was in that state.
Yeah, because also you don't want to admit it.
Yeah, you're like...
You don't want to admit it to yourself.
Am I... like the same thing, am I crying wolf? Am I just sad? Or... am I worth a therapist?
And this is why when Sarah said to me, she was like, you're depressed, I was like, it was kind of almost this like little kicker. I was like, because I've seen a therapist in the past when I had this hypochondria thing going on, like when I was younger, but that was because my mum was like, you need to talk to somebody about this. So I've always, I think thankfully, because I got into that young, I've always been very open to talking about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, becoming, that was like, fuck, okay, I need to just go and see somebody. Like it's, you have to almost admit it to yourself that it is that bad, so to speak. Yeah. And no therapist is going to turn you away and be like, sort of, oh, man up, your problems aren't bad at all. Because also they might uncover some stuff that what mine has been so useful in is like, I've got no kind of weird past of like sort of things that have happened to me, or sort of, oh, I suddenly have recalled memories of this. It's more the way that I perceive certain things, being able to just talk openly to someone. They've been able to look at it completely from a different direction and be like, well, have you considered thinking about it this way? Yeah. Like, and you're like, well, but why? And they're like, because of this. And you're like, oh, shit. Mm-hmm. And I put this on my story a while ago. I got a really good, like, because I've been fairly vocal on Instagram and a few people reach out, and I've spoken to a lot of people who suffer and kind of suffer in silence. And it's this thing where you come away from a therapy session and sometimes you feel like you're on top of the fucking world. And sometimes that feeling lasts for days, other times it lasts for hours, depending on sort of what then follows it. But it's so... When you come away with that feeling, you're like, shit, I could feel like this all the time if I kind of practice this and get better. And I'm not going to lie, I'm really bad at practicing. Like, I should be doing meditation every single day and getting my head into a peaceful place and things, and I struggle.
But it's hard to take time to do that if you're worrying
so
like,
stupid,
I need to get enough work done.
Yeah, but I'm like,
I shouldn't have time to calm down.
Yeah.
Because I need to get work done.
I've got to get work. I've got to get this stuff down. It's stressing me out, and it's like, why don't you take 10 minutes out? And you're like, no, I can't do it
because it's going to stress me out.
That's kind of where I'm at the moment. And I mean, honestly, if anyone has kind of advice about how to like incorporate stuff into their day, I mean, I've tried doing it in the morning. Some people say do it before bed, but like, I don't know. Before bed, I'm just like chilling out with Sarah, and then we go to bed. Like, doesn't feel right. The morning I think is more applicable, but even then, like, because people are like, oh, do it in the middle of the day, and I'm like, no, if I'm midway through something,
I feel like that's quite difficult.
But almost maybe that is the best time to do it.
Or maybe it splits up your day in a good way.
Yeah.
I found driving helps a bit as well.
Yeah, although I feel like, I mean, when I've done these like proper guided meditation things, like you're almost unconscious. It's fucking
I was watching
crazy.
a video about meditation literally last night because
I've never been able to achieve it on my own, but in therapy, and you kind of have this like guided thing, and you're focusing on your breathing and stuff.
Because it's difficult.
Drop through the fucking floor of the universe. It's so like, it's only happened to me a couple of times, but there's this thing that we've done where basically I feel. yeah, it's like it's the sickest fucking thing. And sometimes I can't get there when we do it, and it like really kind of I almost like ruin it for myself. I'm like,
Yeah, because
fuck.
you're like, oh, fuck's sake.
And like I feel like if you put too much pressure on it, but you get it right, and then you can just like it feels so you can trigger it as well. And this is what
You can trigger it.
as in you can get yourself into this like low state, and then it can just be like, oh, cool, and now like let go.
Yeah.
And you just like go like, and it feels like you've just fallen through like fucking clouds. It sounds insane.
No, I know what you mean though. Only because I
and then you get
literally
brought back up from it, and you're like, whoa, it's crazy. Like it's so cool.
It's like giving your body a complete gap in between doing things.
Yeah. And some people can do that all the time, like just casually.
It's like if you practice it.
George gets on a fucking plane without headphones, and it's like an 8-hour flight, and he just stares at the back of the seat and does nothing. And I'm like, how are you that relaxed?
He does.
And he goes, oh, it's just 8 1-hours. And I'm like, what? And he goes, 1 hour isn't very long, so it's just 8 times that. And I'm like,
It's just 8 1 hours.
I'm like, what? Like,
he went on the tour, when he went on the America tour, he only had a few songs on his phone or
fucking
something.
like 5 songs or something.
And he didn't have anything else, no entertainment. I have my laptop
He just
with like
stares
games
out the window,
and shit.
and he's just
It's
so
just like-
content. Content's the word.
I can get close to that with music, but even that gets quite long.
Driving and music, if I can get the right headspace, is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, my brain is just like, I have this thing where it just feels like I can't shut my brain off, and it is constantly active, which in some ways is like a fucking blessing, because I got lists on my phone of video ideas, editing ideas, clothing ideas, some of which will never ever come into fruition. Like if somebody right now was like, if somebody right now was like, what are the next 4 Motus collections going to be? What do they have to be? Like, you have a minute. I could probably just look at a list on my phone and go, cool, that.
Yeah.
Like, so in some ways I feel like really kind of,
I think it's a good business head.
yeah, I don't know.
But it just
Sometimes I'm
doesn't
like,
give you
shit,
breathing
I
room.
feel like I'm kind of creatively on fire kind of thing. But you don't get the breathing room.
But you don't get the breathing room, and because you don't get the breathing room, that's too much information, so you can't like go, like it's similar to the thing how I feel when it's like you got 3 things but it feels like 7 and you can't, like, it's too much because you don't have the space to deal with that.
And I really struggle with like you, like task management and like delegation, because, and this is really hard because I think when you're dealing with something creative, like video editing is the one that always kind of gets me. People are like, oh, well, just set 2 hours of your day for this task and then 2 hours for this, and like,
we found out how difficult that is.
Yeah, it's like if I had a billion emails to go through and somebody was like, cool, just do an hour a day, that would be easy. If somebody was like, oh, I don't know, I have social media, like posting and things, do an hour a day and then do 3 hours of this. But when you're with editing, sometimes it takes 3 hours to get in the creative flow.
Yeah.
And then you might only be in that, and then you'll be like, oh, I've finished my time, like I've got to stop now.
And in the creative flow, I think that's when I feel most
That's when
relaxed.
you feel fucking best.
Yeah, you feel the best, and it's
time
actually
flies.
fun.
Yeah.
And it's the same with, I think, filming things as well, like
Training, like everything. You can
anything creative is.
What's it called? It's called it's got a certain name.
What is?
That space where when you get into.
Oh.
And it's basically, if you can get out of a career, like if you can get into that space as much as possible, then you'll have a fulfilled life, because you're living in this, like, you feel fulfilled. That's the best place to be in. And that's why some people, like, they haven't found what they want yet.
Yeah. I keep forgetting that it's like, I get worried I'm like, oh, I need to set myself up for when I'm older. And then the thing that brings me back to being like, oh, no. I want to be, like, happy all the way until I'm older.
Yeah.
So I need to be doing things that, like, make me happy while setting me up.
Yeah. The hard thing, I think, is in life there are things that can basically fill that desire.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think gaming is, as we said, gaming is great, but it can basically release all the kind of endorphins of, like, success. I mean, you're achieving things in a game. You're like, cool, I beat this level, I killed that guy. And I think that's why you can fall into, like, because you get some people, I mean, people are making $1 million careers out of gaming, which is so sick. I got no hate on gaming.
But no, it is really difficult.
I think,
it's so you forget that they have to do maybe twice as much long-winded editing as, like, we do.
Yeah.
It's not fast-paced. Same thing they're watching over and over
It's
again.
when you essentially use something in life to kind of, to busy your mind or to keep your mind going. And I mean, yeah, gaming is one. I think substance abuse is the one that anyone suffering from depression, anxiety, like, fall into. For myself, it's alcohol. Like, I found very early on in my life that I could basically numb my brain and keep, like, I could go through a day of, like, not even being stressed, but, like, there's just, I think I found a huge amount of pleasure through alcohol in just being able to basically go, cool, shut up. Like, and I could just, that would let me dial in. So I could drink and I could just watch a film, and I wouldn't be thinking, while watching that film, I wouldn't be like, fuck, I need to make this video, or fuck, I need to do this, or like, this has to go, da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And I have relied on that far too much over the last year. And it's the same with weed and whatever. Like, any substance, and we'll
not the same. It sounded like you were saying the same with weed, as in like, oh, I get the same with weed.
No, like people, yeah. Like,
no, it's the same with like
I think anyone who we need to do a proper topic podcast on drugs at some stage. But I think if you were relying on anything to basically numb your brain throughout, like, the day to day or regularly, then that is a problem. Like, that is not a solution.
No,
it is. You're putting a fucking bandage on a bandage.
You're going to say band-aid and bandage.
Band-aid on a kind of gaping wound kind of thing. Like, it's too.
It's bleeding through.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I've done that far too much. I stopped drinking for like 4 months with the intention of kind of never drinking again, I guess, and then was like, oh, but I want to be able to drink occasionally because I enjoy it. Like, this is the really annoying thing, and I think with all substances, it's like, I enjoy doing it, but then it's when it becomes self-destructive, and I'm like, I know this is bad for me. I know I'm going to wake up feeling like shit, but it's going to make me kind of feel relaxed and stop my brain, because it's not even necessarily worrying. Like, a lot of the time I'm not worrying about stuff. I'm just like,
what, when you've been drinking?
No, when I'm like a lot of the time my brain is just running. I'm not worrying necessarily, but I'm just like, cool, I've got to do this, and then I've got to do that, and then and I'll sit on my laptop and I'll be like, cool, I'm working on this.
And you
and
just want to relax, but it's just like,
yeah. Some people are like, just chill out, like, take the weekend off, and I'm like, I can't,
because then I'll have to do more thinking.
Do you
know what I mean?
It is.
You gotta, the things that you're thinking about, you have to do so to make room for other thoughts to come in.
Yeah, and there's this weird, like, stigma that I have given relaxing as, like, oh, that's procrastination. Like, if I take a breather, then, like, I'm going to slip behind, kind of thing.
I procrastinate
and I don't
way too
think
much.
I don't think that's right. I think you should be able to take time off. Like, you definitely should, because it's not good to be working all the time.
It's not good to procrastinate too much.
No, there's a balance. Like with everything in life.
Yeah.
There's this weird thing that I fucking fall into so often is phones on silent, please, Kelan.
I swear.
Is this, like, yeah, you've got to work all the time. And I think that is very much glorified. And it does. Sometimes it feels fucking great to be on mode, and you're just like, I am grafting.
Doesn't help with those really good podcasts. The other one by
when you listen to
Mr. Workman? What's his name?
Do you even listen to them, or do you listen to that one I sent you?
Oh, I've listened to a few more.
Okay.
I kept it like the Next Journeys. I haven't listened to them recently.
Yeah.
I didn't listen to.
Sometimes you listen to shit.
Loads more.
Oh yeah.
And then I did more.
You listen to, like, business podcasts, and sometimes you're like, fuck.
Well, I think then it makes you happy to be thinking about loads of things and more excited.
Yeah.
But I feel like you can't always keep that up.
No, exactly. It's a balance. Yeah, I mean, what just happened there that you won't have realised because of our seamless editing was that a man just came around to look at the back door, and we had a little 20-minute break, and while we came back, Kelan was like, why is Air Whip written down? And I wrote it down. It was probably more relevant earlier, and it's a weird story. I don't know if it's necessarily necessary. But okay, so here's how we can link this in, because this is another thing. It's like, I don't need to tell this story, but I think
it's story time.
I think it's the only reason I want to tell it. Like, you're not aware of this. You might be acutely aware. I don't know if you were aware of what was going on at the time. But I want people to know that, like, other people are going through shit, kind of thing. So Airwhip last year,
yeah,
and also the other thing to be aware of is, like, you also might find your kind of, not your saving grace, so to speak, but you might find a friend in someone who you didn't know was such a friend, or actually involving this person, I knew they were such a friend already because I've had conversations about it's a fucking motorbike hammering up the road.
That was very noisy.
In our 30-mile-an-hour road outside, and they're doing 90. Basically, this is the benefit about talking to people about stuff. Because, so I'm at Airwhip. Marcus Gustafsson, who's one half of Airwhip. I mean, both Philip and Marcus are incredible human beings. And actually, both of them I've had conversations about anxiety and depression and things. And we've had a lot of these talks. But I know Marcus has kind of suffered with stuff over the years, and I've spoken to him about things. During Airwhip, there was a period of a couple of days where I just kind of fell into one of these like depressive slumps, and a lot going on. There was like I don't know, there's just work, and there was just my mentality, and I'd been in one prior to coming out on this trip, and kind of had come out of it for a few days, and then halfway through that trip I just slumped again. And I think kind of what set it off was, do you remember that night when we were all meant to move to the gym, and I moved to the gym from Phillips?
Oh,
and you guys went and stayed somewhere.
I was like thinking,
Airwhip Challenge.
Yeah.
And I spent a night alone at the Airwhip gym. There was one other guy there who barely spoke any English, so I basically spent a night alone with my head kind of on the verge of this thing. And by that next morning, I was just utterly fucking
Where did I stay?
Miserable. At the Airbnb that Robbie and that lot stayed at.
Oh, I did, yeah.
And yeah, next morning I was just fine. But this isn't like, it's not like it's your guys' fault.
Yeah. No,
it was just
like,
I basically spent a night alone with my own head, which technically you should be able to do. And yeah, was just miserable by the morning.
Oh, really?
And an Architects album came out as well, and I fucking love that album. But I mean, it's a sad album when you think about the.
Of course it is.
The music, sort of the topics covered in it. So maybe that played a part, but it's not like I
don't know. I wouldn't know. But I'm saying if that didn't come out, you wouldn't have anything to listen to. Just sort of, when I listen to stuff that is sad, while I'm sad, of course it will make you feel sad.
Well, I don't know.
But it's also like, oh, someone else is feeling sad as well. So I'm not alone.
Well, I mean, we've got music written down because this is another one of those topics that I want to get onto. And yeah, maybe it played a factor, but it definitely wasn't like, oh, I listened to a sad album and then it made me depressed.
Yeah. But it was just...
Because sometimes I listen to that album and I find it quite empowering. But yeah, so that next day I was utterly fucking miserable, and I had a bit of editing to do. I didn't have a huge amount to do. And this is the day of the qualifiers, you know, that day when everyone turns up.
Yeah.
And I sat at the top of the steps, round the corner from Alec and Toby, who were editing, like in the fucking shadows, basically, just like on my phone, chilling out, and basically just got so fucking miserable and didn't go and speak to anyone because there was too much going on, and like I didn't want to like take time out from anyone else, and like you guys were all kind of there
building the setup and shit.
No,
yeah.
the setup was done. This was like 150 people turning up, and all my friends are down there, and I could see like people down in the event, and I was sitting like up in the stalls away from everyone, and I felt so fucking miserable, and I was like, I don't want to be around anyone, no one wants to be around me, I'm too fucking miserable right now, like I'm shit, like everything I put out is awful, like I was like, I'm just going to give up Motus, I'm going to do all of this, just utterly being the most fucking like, it's all useless, why am I even bothering kind of thing. Yeah, like fucking within a few hours was just like crying, like just kind of having a little blub and things. I remember Alec walking past at one stage, and I was like trying to hide like my kind of tears, and he was like, "You right, mate?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then in the end, I went and sat out in the back in like the cafe area, like kind of away where there was no one, and a few like volunteer people like walked past and looked at me and things. And I was just proper like just crying my eyes out. And this is just one of those things, I just felt fucking sad.
There was aspects that, was there anything that made you was to play a part in making you feel shit?
I mean, I think, I don't know.
It probably didn't help that I remember there being complications with like us as a group. We didn't know where we were going to stay, and then we went and stayed. And
yeah, I mean
that's not the reason why.
But it's kind of like stress and things.
I think you were put on the spot where it was like, oh shit, okay, now I'm staying in a gym like on my own.
And
you weren't mentally kind of like, not that you have to be mentally ready for it, but it was a bit of, for your mind, you're like, oh, I'm spending a night now. Like, compare it to how we were staying at Phillips. Think of the complete difference.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and I mean, I
definitely remember feeling a little bit of resentment of like, cool, well, I've just given up my place at Phillip to stay here
on my own,
and now these guys have all gone, oh, we're going to go and stay at this Airbnb. And I was like, cool, well, I have to stay at this gym because this random like foreign guy's staying here, so I have to be here because Philip's trusting me. But that wasn't like, oh, now I'm gonna cry. It was like, maybe that was a factor in why I got myself into a bad place. Like, I don't know. But yeah, so anyway, I'm fucking crying my eyes out, just literally like thinking to myself, like, cool, after this trip I'm throwing everything in, like Motus is over, like everything. And then Marcus walks around the corner, one half of Air Whip, and this is the day of the qualifiers, the day before the main comp. Marcus walks around the corner, he's looking for some spare chairs. And this man is probably, out of the two people there, Marcus and Philip, he has, like, they both have the most shit to deal with during that day. Yeah. And he was like, "You're right," and like sat down, and I was like, "No, just fucking go and do your shit." And he sat with me for like 45 minutes. Like, really? And we just talked about everything and shit. And he was like, because we've spoken about anxiety and stuff before. He gave up so much fucking time for me and was like, "You need to go and see a therapist and things." And I was like, yeah, I will. And then sort of didn't for ages. But yeah, he gave me fucking, out of literally probably one of the 2 busiest days of his life of that year. Yeah. So I'm like forever thankful of that. But then also when I then went home, he hassled me every couple of weeks. He was like, "Have you seen a therapist yet? Have you seen one?" Really? And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll get around to it. I'm busy."
He was involved. He was really involved.
He literally went, "Where do you live?" And I was like, "Oh, Hawkhurst." And he then fucking just Googled that, plus the word therapist, and sent me a page to a load of links.
Really?
And was like, "Go and see someone." And it was around the same time that I then had this talk with Sarah, like literally probably within a couple of days.
Yeah.
Because I think this is the other thing. When I fall into the slumps, you're bad. Then you fall out of them again. Then you get a bit better again. And then when somebody's then like, "Oh, you should go and see someone," you're like, no, I feel fine. Yeah. So it took a couple of times of him pestering me before I was then in another slump. I'd had this conversation with Sarah and he sent me this thing, and I then saw the link and the name to this therapist that I met through an ex-girlfriend actually, like 10 years ago, and was like, "Fuck it, I'm going to go see her. She seemed nice." And then it started all off again.
And it was good?
Yeah.
That wasn't your first ever therapy session?
No. Because like I said, I saw them when I was a bit younger for like hypochondria stuff. But it took Marcus as this exterior source to like manhandle the situation to make it happen almost, which I'm fucking grateful for.
What a lovely guy.
But this is the thing. I think that, but nothing would have moved forward unless I had, I guess, spoken to Marcus in the first place. I could have just shut him out, forced him away, and been like, "Leave me alone." And then actually, because no one else can really go and get a therapy appointment. Like, you kind of have to do that yourself. And just to, I mean, I don't know what the situation is depending on countries and things, but in England, you can go through the NHS. Yeah. The process can take a little bit longer, and they have to kind of evaluate you first, but it's free. So you can completely do that, or you can go private and just pay someone, which is what I do just because I kind of wanted it immediately, and I wanted this specific person that I already knew of.
Yeah.
And I think the same is probably the case for a lot of countries, but honestly, and you don't have to fucking commit to 6 months or years, you're not going to get locked up in some psych ward for feeling the way you do. Like, it's so good to go and talk to someone, and also you can talk to them without any judgment from the outside world. So you're like, "Oh, I hate this guy because I can't compre as far as him," and things like this. And like, you might feel like an idiot saying that to Kelan.
Yeah.
But you're not going to feel like an idiot saying it to a therapist because, one, they don't know what the fuck you're talking about. But two, also, they're not going to like...
Well,
they can be like... Well,
but also, they do this so much.
Yeah.
So think of like the amount of shit they've dealt with.
Yeah.
They could have people who are far worse than what... Well, not far worse, but like, you know...
Yeah.
It's not like some first time thing that they're doing.
No, exactly. Also, unless you are literally killing people and burying them in their garden, in your garden, like they don't. There's a confidentiality thing. They're not going to tell someone, or they're not going to tell anyone. Like, they are bound by confidentiality. So you don't have to worry if you've got weird feelings or feel certain ways about it, like getting out. And if that's your worry about talking to friends, then that's why it's so useful to talk to someone like this.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, we're already sailing over the hour that we said we were going to stay in. I think just to go back to something that we did talk about is exercise and diet are massive players.
100%.
If you're drinking 5 energy drinks a day, you might not even have anxiety. You might just be fucking pumping your body full of caffeine. Like,
Yeah.
there was a guy at an event I went to, I won't kind of name locations and places, who had like some crazy panic attack to the extent where he hyperventilated and actually passed out. And was like, yeah, I've had like, I don't know, like 6 Red Bulls today, and then one of those 24-hour energy things and things. It was like, Jesus Christ, you are wiring.
That's the reason why that's happening. It's not to do with natural.
Yeah, like
chemicals.
you've got to evaluate kind of what you're putting in your body
Yeah.
first, and then if you're living a very sedentary lifestyle, like it's simply proven that doing exercise is just good for you. And obviously we train parkour, so like we've got that going for us, but maybe that's not enough. Like lifting weights, running, there's I think you've got to get on the path of like, basically I think anyone can get out of this. No one is doomed to live a life of depression and anxiety, and I think you've got to recognize that maybe you suffer from it, get on that path, and then be like, cool.
I think people they find it hard to commit to fixing it, because it is hard, and it always will be hard to get out of the like the slump.
I relate it so much to like getting fat. Like you don't realize that you suddenly kind of you don't gain weight overnight, but you do 6 months later kind of go, like a year later, go, shit, I got a bit chubby kind of thing. And I think it's the same thing as you kind of neglect your mental health, and then you're like, fuck, I'm really anxious all the time. And getting away from that, you've got to exercise your mind, and you've got to sort of fix it. And it's not an overnight fix, and there will be better days and there will be worse days. And I mean, I know for a fact that I feel considerably less stressed when I'm not overworked and out of the house, but that doesn't mean that I'm like, oh, now I need to be a recluse. Like, the answer sometimes is not the most easy option. Like, the most easy option for me is go out, buy an Xbox, drink beer, eat pizza, and sit in my house all day. But unfortunately, if I want to achieve anything in my life,
that sounds well fun.
It sounds so good.
Yeah, but the thing is,
there are two spectrums in life, right? And there's a dream at either one of them. And there's the achieving dream, where you like, you achieve your dreams, and then there's the like comfort dream.
Yeah.
Oh.
But that's because I mean, it's not that great though, because if someone was to do that, you'll realise over time, you'll be like, this is so shit.
Yeah. Like if I spend one day doing fuck all, I kind of.
But it also just gets boring. Like every time I turn on my Xbox, if I'm on my own, I'm like, I did this so much, it's just not fun anymore.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad I went through that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Exercise is the one.
Yeah, we got music written down as well, because although we'll jump onto Music Minute in a minute, I think music can be incredibly useful. I also think it can also, because music can transport you to such like an incredible place.
Yeah.
It can also push you in the wrong direction, in the sense that like there's a lot of fucking depressing music out there.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can be totally fine and you listen to it and you're like, oh wow, that's depressing, I relate, or whatever. And then other times it's almost like pushing you over the cliff kind of thing. And I think you have to be a little bit wary about almost like massaging your depression with music that has you know what I mean? Like,
it's gonna help.
No, it's going to make it worse. Like, you're almost like massaging the wrong bit. Like, you're listening to like, oh, everybody hates me, life's so hard music, when you're like, everyone hates me, life's so hard, when really you should be listening to sort of stuff that is somewhat uplifting. And I mean, it's tricky, because some uplifting music, you then compare yourself, you're like, oh shit, this rapper's my age and driving a Lamborghini.
I think you need to get another balance, like we were saying.
Yeah, for sure.
Something that has a bit of both, or something that's pretty, I don't know, not sad.
I think you've got to try and get to this level of like clarity, and that's so easy to say and so hard to do, of knowing where your head sits at that time. Like, I'm now at this stage where I know, even though my body may be screaming terror and fear and run, I know deep down that it's anxiety.
Yeah.
Even though I'm literally thinking, I'm going to die, there's a part of my brain that's like, no, you're not, this is anxiety. And it's the same with like anything that you are doing to massage your depression or alleviate it through substance abuse, or like, I know if I'm drinking because I'm stressed out, that I'm drinking because I'm stressing out, and I really I really shouldn't. And it's like, is this healthy for me? I think you always have to ask.
Yeah, but with music, I really don't know where and such a said thing. People say this all the time, but I don't think I'd know where I'd be without music.
For sure.
If music didn't exist, I don't know. I think I rely a lot on music.
Yeah. I'm exactly the same. I mean, I literally have "This is all I need to feel alive" tattooed on my arm, surrounded by music.
It's so good. I love music so much.
It's like the easy, in a way, it's like the easiest way to get yourself to that like meditation level, because you can transport yourself. Mm-hmm. It's so good. I just remembered a crazy thing I read the other day, actually, that is kind of irrelevant, but I guess if you're susceptible to like jealousy over Instagram and things, nowadays you're getting a lot of these rappers and things who it's accepted that they have to live this lifestyle of like fast cars and nice houses and things, and the music labels are now renting the cars and the houses and everything else on behalf of the artist. So it's like, cool, you're young KJ.
What? So you're like...
And you signed to Sony, and they're like, cool, here is your Lamborghini, here is your house.
But for the video?
So, no, for life. Well, not for life, but for like, it's on a lease. It's like, now you look the image, but the money that is being used to pay the rent is coming out of your royalties. So you might get your music royalties check every month or whatever, and it might be like $100,000 or I don't know.
Yeah.
If you didn't have a Lamborghini thing. So they're basically providing you with a lifestyle that is kind of accepted in the industry, and you probably want anyway. But they're taking the money before you even like kind of get the... So everything's rented. Everything, like so much of this bullshit that people are doing is rented.
For sure, like private jets and shit as well.
Yeah.
Like
Although Drake did just fucking get his own jet, which is insane. But it's so much of it is rented, so much of it's fake. It's the same for all these fucking influencers and everything. Like the amount of people who now try and get like free stays in hotels by swaying this, oh, I'm an influencer, like let me in for free and I'll take some nice photos. And then they're like, oh, look how this exotic hotel.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just found that crazy. I was like, wow, they're getting their money pulled out of their own pocket before they've even got it. Like they're basically getting taxed on their earnings and provided with a cool shit so that they fulfill the kind of image that Sony wants their rappers to look like or whatever.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew about the renting shit, but...
Like jewelry, but like music... yeah, and shit for music videos is always fucking rented and stuff like this. That was my 60 with thing. 60 with? Music Minute, sorry. No, I was just thinking I mean
60 with.
To anyone who enjoyed my Music Minute about Shikari a couple of weeks ago, as I said, their most recent album was written like, this is the other thing I remembered, right? This guy came around to do the wall the other day in the house.
Yeah.
And it was the same day that Keith from The Prodigy killed himself.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh fuck, I love Keith. He's proper like builder, like one of those guys who's like casually just throwing in little racist remarks, and you're like, like get out of my house. and yeah, he was like, why did he kill himself? I love Keith. I was like, he killed himself, apparently had depression and things. And they're like, oh, that's because, and he literally said like, oh, that's because it's all fucking popular now. I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, it's like everyone's got depression. It's like the new fucking thing to have, isn't it? I was like...
Oh, you mean depression? I thought you meant just like their music.
No, depression. He was like, yeah, it's like the new fucking trend. It's like to be depressed and stuff. And I can...
No, I mean, you can see why he
you can see that very simple thing.
Surely he's smarter than that.
No, but it's because people are talking about it more, and people are being more open, and therefore you get these people who are like, oh, it's a fucking fad. It's like, well, what? So Kurt Cobain fucking killed himself ahead of the trend. Like, was he a trendsetter by killing it? Like, it's not like that. Like, I think we are thankfully moving into this world where people are being more open, but I think we need a huge amount more of it, because still people are fucking killing themselves after. I mean, Chester Bennington from Linkin Park, like everyone's seen that video that gets shared around of like the day before he killed himself, he's all happy and smiles with his family, and then killed himself the next day. Like, and he Keith, Chester, all these people, millions and millions of pounds probably chilling like in their lifestyle essentially, but still have huge amounts of troubles, because nothing's going to fix your head. Like,
well, I'm sure for them it's well hard to talk to someone about them being depressed because they've got all this money and stuff.
Well, for them it's like they can't be perceived to be depressed.
Well, yeah,
like they could go and pay a therapist, but like if they put it up like, oh, feeling really down today,
well, people would hate him because you've got all this money.
My builder's going to be like, mate, we'll fight build a walls. And yeah, he was just fucking. I kind of hate that mindset. But Shikari's latest album was written by the lead singer, obviously, and he went through this savage, like severe. And I mean, anyone who's into sort of slightly alternative, not hippity hoppity. I mean, fuck it. If you're into any music, check it out. It's the entire thing is basically written about this sort of battle and plight to get out of depression, anxiety, and everything. And this is the kind of stuff that I really like to listen to when I'm feeling down, because it is a bit more uplifting and poignant. And am I really going to read out lyrics? That's kind of what I was thinking, and now as I'm about to do it, it sounds really weird.
I didn't know you were going to do it, so I want to.
Shall I sing them?
Go on then.
No, but I it's because I was listening to this song the other day and thinking about this topic, and it's stuff like this compared to some of the shit that you hear in music nowadays.
Yeah.
It's when the wind's against you, remember this in sight. That's the optimal condition for birds to take flight. Now the wind's against you, don't give up the fight. I said that really kind of shitly, but it's.
Now the wind's against.
Please no.
You.
But that's fuck. I just like music that tackles topics that are like relevant, and they're trying to do something with that.
Yeah.
That rather than just shit. And I think you can find this kind of music in all genres and things. And if you are feeling down, it's like you've got to hunt. You've got to dig a little for that mental inspiration to like get you out of that hole. Everything is Borrowed by The Streets is a really good song actually. It's kind of a bit. No, it's not savage, but I mean it's Mike Skinner.
I haven't heard that one.
It's essentially everything is borrowed. Like you die with nothing.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of, that's quite an empowering thing, because it's like, well, you got to kind of make the most of it.
Yeah.
So you can fucking get on your Spotify and dig deep and try to avoid the.
Try and listen to good music.
It's very easy to find the sad songs and just well into like a pit of darkness. But yeah,
Max is a good person to talk about all that stuff. I always chat to him about like music, as in just like, because his mum's really spiritual.
Yeah.
Shit. And as a three, like, because his mum's really talkative and shit. And there's just so much music nowadays that's just being pumped. I mean, everyone knows that. It's just being pumped out for my age group, really.
Yeah.
To just fall into that trap. And everyone forgets about the music that actually makes you feel something.
Yeah.
Which I think is literally what music should be about.
Exactly. And it should.
If you've got the platform,
use it.
Well, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Not to make people fucking jealous and want all the pussy money weed.
It's the go-to statement, isn't it? Like,
of course.
Mainstream music, pussy money weed.
Pussy money weed. Yeah, but it's fun now and then.
Yeah, of course. But everything in moderation, Keelan. Music Minute? Are we doing it?
Yeah, of course we're doing it.
I would like to, if you made it this far in this podcast, and I mean, actually, before we get into Music Minute, because I think we'll wrap it up after that. But did you just break?
No, I tied it behind me.
Broke his trousers. If you want to continue any of these conversations further, feel free to reach out to myself and Keelan if he's keen for it.
Yes, I am.
On Instagram's probably the easiest place.
It is.
And yeah, just please, if you're feeling shit, sort of talk, seek help, etc.
Yeah.
No one is alone in this, and you can get out. But yeah, now for 2 minutes of absolute fucking drivel.
I know.
Who's going first?
I don't know.
I can go first. I mean, I'm not that confident on mine because it's a fairly new artist.
I am. Now I'm confident with mine. I've luckily.
Okay, you can finish it off. I'll go first.
Okay.
All right, I'll go at 30 seconds. 24, 25, 26, 27.
2, 1, Giles.
So my artist is a man called Dave. He's actually very, very popular in the UK at the moment. He's a grime artist. I think it's grime. I guess it's grime. Mm-hmm. I think he literally just had a #1 album, so I'm not expecting everyone to be like, oh, I've never heard of this person. But to anyone who hasn't, he's. I don't listen to a huge amount of grime, but I kind of dip my toe in and out of the waters, and I listened to his album, and the first song, Psycho, has this bit 3/4 of the way through where the entire thing just fucking flips on his head, and he basically covers the fact that he's essentially battling with depression and everything else. And I'd heard that this guy's songs on the radio a tiny bit and never really cast much judgment. And then I heard this and I was like, fuck, this guy's way more like deeper than I expected. I'm running out of time, but he's fucking good. It's a really good album called Psychodrama. Give it a chance, even if you're not into that genre.
You have actually, I do know Dave, because you showed me a bit of Dave.
Dave.
Yeah, because I'm not into
he was
grime
like a fucking...
all, but it was quite nice to hear that. And I'm not into grime, I think, probably because I don't really relate to any of it.
Yeah,
ever.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just a bit, yeah.
Well, we grew up in Kent.
Oh, yeah.
So...
no one
I was just,
the grimes round here.
Yeah, I was just reading about him on Wikipedia. He kind of... I don't know if he's classically trained, but he really like composes stuff on pianos and guitars and everything. So he's really kind of clever with music as well as lyrics and stuff.
That's good.
But no, I enjoyed it. I enjoy his stuff. I enjoy Dave's body of work very much. Yes.
I like that he chose. Is he actually called Dave?
I think he's called David something, and he was just
I like that
fuck
he was
it.
like,
yeah,
I'm Dave.
I'm just gonna be Dave.
That's well good. All right. Well, I'll start at 30 as well.
Okay.
Has my phone just died?
Oh.
Yes. I didn't need
You
to look
got 2
at it.
seconds. One and go.
So I'm gonna do mine on. It's hard because you can't find this on Spotify, and actually my dad showed me this. Anyway, they're called KLF, and the album I've listened to is called the Chill Out album, and I wanted to talk about this because I feel like it's almost like meditation when I listen to it. I know I always talk about songs that are weird and they don't really have much going on in them, and they do sound very sort of like outer spacey sort of things, but this one is probably one of my favourites when I'm feeling a bit lost, so to speak. But it is just a bunch of noises. It is music. You can hear it is like actually got beats to it and stuff. But yeah, it's only on YouTube. It's about 40 minutes long, and you listen to the whole album from front to back. And I don't know. I don't really have much to say about this. I was gonna cheat a bit and like play 5 seconds at the end because
I mean, you've gone over the time, but you
can't
even cheat.
That's what I mean, because last time you were like, oh look, here we go, and you played a bit.
Yeah.
And I was going to be like, I'm going to get you back for this.
Yeah.
But as I've gone over the time, I will just say it is something that I go to a lot when I just want to feel like I just want to clear my head completely.
Yeah. I like the fact that you said it's made out of a load of sounds.
It is. Oh yeah, music is. But
is a load of sounds.
But it isn't made out of loads of beats all the time.
Yeah,
it's hard to
yeah.
describe.
Yeah, I feel like I always need to do more of that kind of music. Like,
yeah, but I've gone
quite
towards.
easy to get trapped in genres.
I mean, I've pushed away a lot of like. I have loads of playlists, like rap playlists. I mean, I have everything.
Yeah.
But I have now like completely slowed down on everything apart from like now and then I'll listen to metal, but it will be mostly the things that I usually listen to. I haven't actually searched for newer ones. And then nearly all the time it will be this sort of music.
Oh, okay.
Because I've just like, I can't really be bothered to listen to rap anymore. It just makes you feel, well, it's fun, but I'm sitting in my car and I'm just like, I almost wasted my time.
See, I would love to agree with you there, but I do sometimes like just feeling fucking boss while driving along.
Yeah.
Like,
I just don't get that feeling anymore. I think
I'm like, yeah, I'm a fucking gangster.
Maybe it's all those times when I was younger and I used to dance and I'd listen to that sort of music.
Oh, and the old breakdance.
Like, yeah, to me it's just cheesy. Like, and people would hate me for that saying that. But I think everything like that to me is just cheesy nowadays. So I just like to...
You've turned into that chill out head who's like a metal head where they're like, no, it's not metal, I don't care. You're like, no, it's not chill out.
But also, like, I can't make anyone listen to it. It's not the type of music I could be like, oh, can I put a song on in the car? And then everyone's sitting there like...
40-minute long, like...
Yeah, it's only stuff for me time.
Yeah.
On my own.
Yeah. Wicked. Well, I think we should probably wrap this up. Because, I mean, we started this hours ago and we've had many interruptions of door knocking and door locking and...
Finger clicking.
And stuff. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that. Next podcast lined up, hopefully, if we can get it done in time, because we're going to be away for 10 days shooting this video.
I loved it.
There he is.
He's actually in the back of the room at the moment. Just sitting there. No, he's not really.
Hopefully. Tomorrow George McGowan is flying in preparation for shooting Soul Destroyer. So yeah, if we can get everything sorted out, we'll have George on next, or probably one of the other Motus athletes, because we basically need to get one more.
I want George.
I want George.
I want
as
him
well.
to tell me how to live life.
I know, yeah.
The meaning of life.
I want George to just read a book for an hour.
Yeah.
But
His favourite book.
Yeah. We need to get one out for the time that we're filming, because we don't particularly want to be trying to record a podcast in a house with 10 other people, because I just don't think it's feasible. As much as you probably all want that, it's not. It just sounds like noise, things breaking noise. And me screaming, losing my mind.
I'd get distracted.
But yeah, wicked. Thank you very much. Thank you for hearing about me getting scared about pooing on planes, crying at Airwhip.
Hopefully it didn't turn anyone's brain. If you've listened to this in the morning, I hope that you still have a positive day. I hope you don't
go out and fucking smash it, but remember to have a little breather, treat yourself well, tell yourself you're doing well at life, and let's say goodbye.
All right, see you later, bitches.
Love you, bye.